So let's continue to talk about systems in a dental office and what I think is the most logical, next most important system in the dental office. And that is the new patient experience. Um, we've talked about getting your phone to ring using advertising, and I'll put more on that later, but generally you're hiring that out. But you have your internal and external advertising, you're spending money getting your phone to ring. We talked about the new patient phone call system and how to really wow your patients on the phone and get that appointment set. We've talked about after that your welcome package and everything you've sent out in your paperless forms and your scheduling, how you templated your schedule to allow room to grow for patients. So you spend a lot of work getting to this point, wanting patients to come into the practice. And the KPI for that is going to be, do the patients show up and do they show up on time? So if you're having patients that aren't showing up for the new patient appointment, or they're showing up late or unprepared, that's what you need to look at the systems we've already talked about. That's going to be your key performance indicator. But now, what are you going to do once this patient comes into your practice? How do you want them to experience, especially their first visit? All right. This is really your chance to connect to the patient. I'm going to go over some ideas. Every practice is going to be a bit unique in how you do this. I'm going to go over some ideas, but at the end, I'm going to give you a way to develop a new patient experience with your team that is individual to your practice, that makes sense and meets all the goals that you want to. Because that's the most important thing, is that everyone in the office is bought into this system. So when we talk about having everybody in the office buy into something, we're talking about that culture you build in the practice. Really, the first thing that you need to do as the leader and owner of the practice is figure out what you value. What are the most important things? And this is going to be developing a mission, a vision, and guiding principles, and even a motto for your office. I'm big into Boy Scouts. When I was younger in the Navy, I was a Boy Scout leader, and I was a Boy Scout as a young man for a little bit, but I really loved the idea that we had these guiding documents and sayings. You have the Boy Scout law, you have the motto. There's all these different things that Boy Scouts can reflect back on that says this is who a Boy Scout is and lets everybody know. Kind of need the same thing for your practice. And a lot of times when you're starting a practice, you're going, I don't have time for this kind of crap. I know I felt the same way for a long time. Everybody wanted to sit down and talk about a mission, vision, guiding principles. And I was like, why? I need to make money. This mission, this vision, these guiding principles, like I said, they tell you who you are and where you want to go. They let your team know, here's what is important to the office, and this is our goal. And by everyone sharing that, now you can let your patients know who you are. But if you don't know who you are, your team's not going to know who you are, your patients aren't going to know. So look at that mission, vision, and guiding principles. I'll share mine with everyone in another video, how we developed ours. But you need to think about that and get team alignment. Your new patient experience is not you alone. It's not the doctor alone. It is every single person along that line that touches that patient in some way and that interacts with them. And it needs to be a very intentional thing when you bring people into your practice. So start with team alignment. And part of the thing about team alignment that sometimes gets overlooked is the mindset of the doctor. If you want your people to behave a certain way, you have to be the one that is behaving that way. And you have to show up each day with clear intentions and a clear mind, and it is very difficult. Life wears on you in multiple different ways, and it's difficult to get a handle on your own brain and attitude, but I'm telling you, it is one of the key points in being a leader and running any type of business, and especially a dental office, working closely with your dental team. You wear multiple hats all the time. You need to show up on your best behavior. I can talk about this in another video too, about things I do, because I have struggled with it over my career. And it took me a while to figure out it's probably one of the most important things. So there's a lot of resources out there to help you. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a great one. There's different motivational leaders everywhere, but you need to take time to learn how to create your own personal culture if you're going to create an office in the culture. All right. So hints about the new patient experience. We've talked about the new patient welcome package, the video and everything. Those are all great. Now they're showing up at your office. They're going to be walking in from their car, the parking lot in. You need to do that same thing with fresh eyes. Get your entire team out there. Get your spouse out there. Get people that will notice things that you won't, and walk from the car into the office and look at what you see. Are the windows clean? Is the entryway clean? Is the doormat worn and dirty, or is it new? Open the door into your office, and what's your initial feeling when you walk in? What does your waiting area look like, your reception area? What is the smell? Is it cold, sterile, and dated, or is this new, fresh, and inviting? You want new, fresh, and inviting, unless your ethic is cold, sterile, and dated, then fine, go with it. But you need to take a look at your office and see, what do I see when I walk in? Walk around the office, sit in every single operatory and look up at what they're going to be seeing. Think about what I can do to make people feel comfortable. A lot of people don't want to sit in an operatory chair. Do you have a consultation room or area that you can set aside and decorate? Sometimes it's just paint and a little bit of art on the walls or different things to make it look more inviting. What does it smell like? Do you need a Glade plug-in, or do you need a diffuser or something to help your office smell a little better? Those are the little things that we can do just to make it more inviting. Here's what I want you to think about. The buying power in all of medicine rests in women. They are the ones that hold the purse strings. They are the ones that make the decisions, right? Now, sure, you're always going to get the thing is, I have to go home and ask my husband. We get it too. But in reality, that is a delay tactic. The women are the ones that come to the office, bring the kids to the office. Many times the last person I see in the office is the man, and they're kicking and screaming because the wife is sick of that one tooth or whatever. Women hold the purse strings in dentistry. You need to appoint your office to geared towards the buying power of women. I go into some of these offices and I see it looks like a locker room in a golf pro shop. It's not, the target market is not being represented there. So hire someone, talk to your spouse, talk to people, but let's remember who is going to be purchasing our services and gear our decorating towards them. Before a patient comes in, you need to have someone designated to walk through the office. Generally, it's going to be the receptionist or the treatment coordinator. They're going to be walking through the office, making sure the front of the office is straightened, the patient restroom is straightened and has everything in it, so that when that patient comes in, there's not a reason to go away. When I go into a restaurant and I go to use the restroom, if the restroom is trashed, I have a very low opinion of that restaurant. I really do. And sometimes I want to leave if you have a trashed restroom. Or if it's dirty in certain ways. If you can't keep it clean here, I doubt you can keep it clean back there. All right. Something you want to address is what you're going to talk about in huddle. It's always a good idea to introduce this patient in huddle and have a route slip ready. I know we're a paperless world, but I still use route slips because we can all write on this and put any notes that we need to pass on for anybody that's going to interact with that patient. Whatever was said on the phone needs to make its way through the team, all right? So I'm going to give you an example of experiences I've had at medical practices, because medical practices are a perfect example of how not to do things sometimes. I call up on the phone, and first thing they ask me is my chief complaint. I don't complain. I'm a patient. I have concerns. Let's change our nomenclature. What's your chief concern, or how can we help you today, right? So I tell them whatever it is, and then I show up to my appointment. And when I show up to my appointment, the receptionist instantly asks me what I'm there for. And I tell them again what I'm there for. And then the assistant comes and gets me and takes me back to take my vital signs and weights and asks me what I'm there for. And I again tell them what I'm there for. Then I get seated in the room. A nurse comes in and asks me what I'm there for. Again, I tell them what I'm there for. And then finally, the doctor comes in and asks me what I'm there for. and I've repeated myself 5 times at this point. This happens every time I go to a medical provider. Rather than asking that question, let's reaffirm that question so the patient knows they're being heard. On the phone, they tell us what they're coming in for. So when they come in, that's a great time for the receptionist to say, I have you scheduled for 90 minutes with Dr. Saydyk today. Let them know what their expectations are. And, they let me know that, I remember we talked on the phone, you have a problem with the tooth in the lower right-hand side. Is there anything else you'd want to address today, right? And then whatever they say, write it down on that route sleeve, put it in the notes. Now, when the dental assistant comes to get them, you can now introduce the patient. You've already introduced them in huddle. Hey, Joe, this is Maya. She's going to be taking you back today. Joe's here for that limited exam, tooth in the lower right's bothering him. All right? Maya, then you take him back, and Maya can ask more questions about this and write more notes, anything the patient says. When they bring the doctor in, Maya can then say, hey, this is Joe, Dr. Saydyk. Joe has this problem in the lower right-hand corner with a tooth. It's been bothering him. It's sensitive to cold. Started about a week ago. It's waking him up at nights. This is all he wants to talk about today. Also, here's his medical history and blood pressure today. And now me as the doctor, I can sit down and start discussing this tooth and do my test and everything. And that patient feels heard. They haven't really had to say anything other than affirm that, yeah, initially what I told you is still what it is. There's a huge difference in that as far as feeling heard, because I've experienced that too, especially when I go to really nice hotels and I'm actually, the stuff that was said on the phone, even the stuff that was picked up just, in regular conversation, made its way all the way to my room for me. It's amazing when that happens, and you have no problem with a big bill when that happens. I'm telling you, because you're like, Jesus, people are on point. You want to be that person that's on point for this patient, so they have no reason to say no to the treatment you're going to recommend. All right, so think about systems to pass that information off. What amenities do you have available to the patient when they come in? Think about it. Do you have water, coffee, restrooms? Make some little amenities for them as they come in, and be sure to offer those to them. Again, remember that the receptionist, when they come in, needs to set the expectation of what the appointment is. And then pay attention to monitoring time. In our thing, we're watching time very carefully on these patients and making sure we bring them back on time. There is a magic thing that happens. You can come into an office and sit in the waiting room. If your appointment is at 9 and it's 9:05, they're late. If your appointment is at 9, we bring you back at 9, see you in the operatory, and for 5 minutes you sit there, you're on time. So really ensure we're bringing patients back on time, and discuss with your team strategies to distort time. What if the doctor is running late? How can we change our appointment and make time seem like something is happening, or do something differently so that we fill in time so the patient doesn't feel like they're sitting and waiting forever. I don't like the cattle call. Think about how you're going to have the dental assistant come get the patient. If you open the door and call a name out, I think that's poor form. It's what they expect everywhere else. Walk out and find that patient. We give an office tour. We don't call it an office tour. We say, hey, let me show you our office. And we have a certain points along that. And I want you to think about what would be appropriate for your office. We have a doctor wall of fame. It's everything about me, all my awards and everything, that they can pick out certain things to talk about, things that I'm proud of or want to relate. The American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, any different implantology courses I've taken. This also lets them know about what my skill set is, so they know. I've heard stories of people going to their doctor for years and then coming up with a set of veneers, showing up one day, and them going, hey, where did you get the veneers? And go, oh, this doctor over in Chandler does this amazing veneers. I've always wanted them, so I went and got them there. And then you go, well, we do that here. Well, you never told me, right? You need to be telling your patients what you do. A team wall of fame. You want to focus and highlight your team. So having photos up of your team, of their families, have them pick a couple photos and put them in different frames so they can introduce you to different people in the office. A patient wall of fame, if you have particular cases you're excited about, have photos with your patients. Community involvement, that lets them know who you are and what you do. Show the patient the restroom, sterilization area, different pieces of technology you want to highlight. have each member of the team practice taking everybody on a tour of the office and showing them things. We can all pick up stuff from each other. Everybody, I don't like a script. I like individualism, but we can all figure what different points are in the office. And when you do your team meeting to develop this, this is one of the things you want to think about is how should we show our office off to people. Think about where you're going to do your initial consultation. Is it going to be in the consult room? Is it going to be in the operatory? Is it going to be in the hygiene room? And does that differ for different people? And how does the team make that decision? And when do they make that decision? And if they need to call an audible, if they think something has changed, how do they do that? This is something you need to think about in the flow. What is that dental assistant going to talk about and do? Are they going to do the initial interview? Are they just going to go right to records? Are they going to bring the doctor in and talk to the patient first? What are they going to do? Talk about listening to the patient and what you want the assistant to talk about too. Let's do some role playing here. We want to make sure we're actually listening to our patients and interacting with them. There's different ways to listen. There's the passive listening where you're just trying to get through stuff and you're missing a lot of what they say. There is more of an active listening, but it's an active listening where you're trying to say something the entire time. And then there's the really good listening where you're absorbing what the patient says, you're asking follow-up questions, you're encouraging them to share more. Letting someone talk, being interested in who they are, makes them feel great. And that's what you want. You want to practice with your team on how to actually listen to people, right? And get them to speak and share more and get that information down so you can get to know them better and build that relationship. People buy what they value. People buy from people that they like. So this is the goal of this interaction with the patient. And it makes everybody feel better. It's better to work on people that are happy and like you and feel loved. That's all there is to it. If the doctor's going to interview, what is the format of that? What are the things you want to make sure you hit? How are you going to go through that? I have a spiel I do every single time to patients. What are the diagnostics you're going to take? And here's a hint for diagnostics, especially on complex cases. If it's a complex case, order the diagnostics. If it's a complex or aesthetic case, I speak to the patient first. I then order the diagnostics in front of the patient and let them know what I want them to take. Many times it's the same thing every time. We kind of already know, but the fact that I'm giving an order for it leads a little more value to it. As your dental assistant is taking the diagnostic records, what are they saying to the patient? You want to inform them what we are doing and how we are doing it, highlight our technology, right? It can't feel routine to them. It needs to feel like we're explaining what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing it with. And then in your exam, what are all your forms you're going to be using? How are you gathering this data of existing and everything? And what tests are you going to go through? That's a little bit of a sticky part. That's a separate SOP in my office all in and of itself. So our new patient experience, and that just says doctor exam. But your doctor exam should be something for a new patient, comprehensive patient, hygiene, that you have detailed out exactly what you're going to do with timing. And then what are they going to do at the very end? Are we going to tour the mouth here? Are we going to bring them back and tour the mouth later in the office? How do we make that decision? Is that decision made before or after? And then again, how is that doctor going to go through and present this? Are you presenting financials here? Are you asking the patient more questions? I mean, there's different ways to do this. I follow Frank Spear's method, tour of the mouth. And if it's nice and easy, I'll do it chair side. If not, I'm going to bring them back and talk to them. But a lot of times I'm also asking the patient what they would prefer. And many times the patient is right on with me. They want what I want by this time. How are you going to hand off to the treatment coordinator, and how are they going to go over financials? That again is a separate SOP. So in our new patient SOP, it's we hand off to treatment coordinator here, either in the operatory or in the office or at the front. How do we decide which ones they go? And then at the end, what are we giving the patient? How are we scheduling this next appointments? And how are we showing them out the door? What are we giving them before they leave? So that's your new patient experience. And I know I've been very general because it's different for every single office, but those are kind of some of the highlights of this. And the most important part is you've thought through every part of this. So our key performance indicator on our new patients, we want to know how many new patients we're getting. We want to know, did they pre-appoint? That's one of your biggest KPIs. If patients come in and they do not pre-appoint for their hygiene, they don't walk away with a hygiene visit, or they don't walk away with their next hygiene visit, that's a red flag. We didn't wow them. They're having to think about it, right? That means no, you did, something happened. How much did you diagnose on the patient? And of what you diagnosed, how much did you present? And of what you presented, how much did they accept? All right. What is our treatment acceptance in total, and what is it per new patient? The next one is how many of our patients said yes to something, right? Did they pre-appoint for hygiene or operative if needed? So those are all your key performance indicators you're going to find. And those are super important ones to be tracking, because that tells you where your comfort level is on presenting. If you are diagnosing a bunch and getting very low acceptance, we need to look at how we are presenting our treatment to patients. If patients are not scheduling back for their hygiene visit, we need to look at what we're doing during that visit. How are we losing them? So I told you I was going to tell you how you can develop this with your team. There was a TED Talk given back in 2013, and it was on how to develop complex systems. And I'll put a link to it down below, but it's called Draw Toast. And there's a website called drawtoast.com that you can go to and view the TED Talk. Basically, the idea is, if you ask people to draw the process of making toast and give them a sheet of paper, they're going to go through and draw it out how to make toast. And everyone's going to draw it differently. Some people will draw a very intense diagram, everything from harvesting the oats and milling them, making the bread. Other people are going to draw a toaster and put it in. It's interesting, people from Europe are going to draw a pan, and they're going to put their toast in a pan, not a toaster. Everybody has a different way of seeing it. And you're going to get a certain number of nodes and connections on that. And then if you give the people note cards and ask them to draw toast again, they're going to be more detailed, and they're going to have more nodes and more connections in that. And the really amazing thing is, when you put a whole group of people together and give them note cards and have them draw the nodes and then put them up on a wall and rearrange these and add to them, they can build an extremely complex system with many nodes and many connectors and branching things, decision times. And because everybody built it together, everybody understands the system. So what we did is we rented a room at the Chamber of Commerce with a great big whiteboard. I got a bunch of note cards, brought in lunch and everything. We watched the Draw Toast video, and then we went down with the idea of talking about our new patient experience and drawing, everybody making note cards of what they think are the most important parts of this. And I kind of had my own agenda. I knew what I wanted on there, so I could put certain things out. But there was a lot of things that we found that I didn't know about that would have to happen with the new patient experience. The front office sees it differently than the back office than how I see it. So we were all be able to talk about the different most important parts, put it up on the wall, and we found redundancies. We found opportunities. We found times when we have a tough time making a decision here. Who does the assistant hand off to? We found really key points and key times, make sure the office is clean, make sure this, make sure we have a walkthrough. And we developed this entire system together, and we took a picture of it, and drew out a standard operating procedure that everybody else was able to read through. And now my team really owned the new patient experience. We're actually going to revisit this soon, because it's been many years since we've done this, and the team has had some changes to it. So we're going to kind of take it and look over it again together in the same way. But it's a really powerful way to do any type of system. If you just write your SOP and say, this is what I want, and hand it to them, it will be done for a little while and then probably default back to the normal. But if you develop a system with your team like this, then they really own it. You'll find that it lasts over time. So that's a new patient experience. This is the next most important thing. I'll have to think about what the next one is, because there's a lot of systems now that really dive deep into how to run a dental practice. And these are the really interesting ones, the day-to-day ones that I really like, on how to break large tasks into small edible pieces, and how to put a calendar together that has a kind of a system of beats in order to make sure we're making phone calls and doing the things we're supposed to do. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's talk more about systems.